All right. Final countdown. Let's turn it over to Mission Control. Let's light this candle.
Let me go back to my childhood. I remember getting asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I had one answer. There will be plenty of us who had that one dream. To be an astronaut. Now here's the funny thing that's happened over the last few years. Space is no longer for the chosen few. It's not just for super fit nerdy scientists and military folks. If you want to, and if you have the money to pay for it, you too can buy a ticket to space. There are a couple of companies that have worked on making this happen. One is Blue Origin, which is a US-based private space company owned by Amazon's Jeff Bezos. The other is Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic. The former won the race to be the first into space when it launched with a crew in 2021. Incidentally, Bezos himself was a passenger on that launch. More recently, Blue Origin launched the first Indian civilian astronaut just a couple of months back.
Start 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
Keep listening to figure exactly how each one of us too can dream to one day experience space. It's Thursday, 22nd of August. I'm your host Nirmal John and you're listening to The Morning Brief. Today, we have two space-grade guests with us. The first is Michael Edmonds, who heads strategy, marketing and sales at Blue Origin. He is the guy you should talk to if you want to make your astronaut dreams a reality. The second person joining us today is Gopichan Thotakura, who on the 19th of May this year became India's first civilian astronaut. Why am I using the term civilian astronaut, I hear you ask? Here goes. The first Indian in space was Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma all the way back in 1984. Astronauts Kalpana Chawla, Sunita Williams, Rajachari and Sirisha Bandla were all US citizens of Indian origin. Thotakura, who is from Vijayawada, is an Indian citizen and not a military man. He is an entrepreneur based in the US but has kept his Indian passport. That is what makes him the first Indian civilian in space. He is not a stranger to adventure. He is a pilot who has flown extensively in different aircraft across different terrains. But well, space is literally out of this world, isn't it? To touch the great unknown is the greatest adventure of all. It has been a few weeks since the big day when he was launched and crossed the Kármán line into space. Today, he is with us along with Michael. Welcome to the Morning Brief, guys. I'll start with Gopi. At least for some of our listeners who are non-believers living, tell me, is the Earth really round?
To answer that question, the Earth is definitely round. It's not a box, it's not a hexagon, it's not a square, it's definitely round.
Right, thank you for that clarification, Gopi. Michael, why is taking normal folks to space important and why has Blue made this a key part of its mission?
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show and Blue Origin. We're proud to be here. The vision of Blue Origin is millions of people living and working in space. And we take that pretty seriously. It's about all of humanity. We absolutely feel that the growth of humanity and the quality of life of humanity gets better through utilizing space resources. And so that's what we're trying to do. The first gate of our mission is to radically reduce the cost of access to space. So we've got programs like New Shepard and New Glenn to go make it affordable to get into space and access space resources, and then harness those resources for the betterment of humanity. Infinite energy, harnessing the sun. There's water out there, it's just hard to get. And any mineral you could possibly want are there. And that is really a vision and a mission that's very long-term thinking and intended for all humans. So we want to make sure that everybody's included in that, not only in the benefit that we achieve one day, but today in understanding the purpose of what we're doing, so they can feel a part of it as we all progress together as one species on one planet.
Take me through your experience, Gopi, from launch to landing.
So launch to landing, I don't know if there's a very cutthroat answer to kind of tell you that it was a fun experience. It was a life-changing experience. I think more than launch to landing is the entire duration you spend with Michael's team and Team Blue. It's not just the actual flight trajectory and the path, but this mission for us was almost a year and a half, right? And we had a lot of interaction, and it's not normal with the anomaly that happened in the previous mission. But I think that's what made it really worth every second that was spent in New Shepard going to space. I think what people don't realize, and naturally, is you sit on a rocket, which is 100 feet tall, and then you blast off into space within 2 minutes. And that's not something that you experience in everyday, day-to-day stuff. So it's very different. There's a lot of adrenaline that is rushing through you. There is a lot of questions that are going through your mind. Do you really understand what is happening in your path? And obviously, it happens really, really fast. So I would say it is by far one of the most fun and learning experiences, more than fun, that I've ever had in my life. And I thank Blue for the opportunity and everybody else. So.
Michael, I'm guessing that there has been a renewed interest once Gopi went up in space from this country itself. So, if you can take me through the process which an Indian must go through to, if they're interested in flying with you, where should they start?
Yeah, so Gopi's been great for international demand in general. The process is pretty simple. BlueOrigin.com, log on, we fill out some paperwork, get a non-disclosure out of the way, and then we start talking paperwork process and payment. And then from there, once that's taken care of, you get to know the team, you become part of the Blue Origin family. And when it gets closer and closer to your launch, about 3 days before your launch, you come down for training. The training is about 2 days. The vehicle is very intuitive. It's autonomous. And so it's more about the team getting to know one another and becoming a real crew before they take their flight.
But how do you make sure that, the person who's reaching out over the internet, and anybody can reach out over the internet, right? So I'm just curious, how do you make sure that this is a genuine person who's actually trying to reach out, who has the resources, who has got the intent, etc.?
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate with the people who have flown with us. Just every one of them missionaries, I think, really looking for that overview effect, just trying to understand kind of our place in the universe, reflecting back on it for pretty noble means. The discussions that we've got, it's on the phone, get to know people kind of digitally, as well as go out and meet with them in many cases. And so I think we've been very blessed with that. There's some level of background check, but most people who want to engage in this are doing it for the right reasons. And I'd say that for all of the industry, not just Blue Origin. And again, there's been 650 people, less than 650 people who've been above the Kármán line, the demarcation of space, 100 kilometers, 62 miles, out of 107 billion humans born. So we as a species have to do better. We got to get more folks up there. It is life-changing. The manifest is pretty robust. We do have other Indian folks on it. And yeah, we're already up to about 5%, almost 6% of all humans who have ever been to space flew on New Shepard, if you can believe that. And it's double the rate if you look at the number of women who've been to space to date. Need to do better on all regard, but yeah, it definitely instigated demand around the world. And we've got pretty exciting manifests coming up.
When are you flying?
I'm kind of the person behind the people. I would love to go. I can't wait to go, but it's been an honor and just an amazing experience to help these other folks get up above the Kármán line.
What is the best thing you've heard people, say about being in space?
Well, honestly, Gopi said it, but in one of our post interviews, one of our astronauts, what were you thinking on the way up? And it's like, oh yes, it is round. So that's kind of on the fun end. On the other end of it, just from a touching of the heart, people have said, you never know how much someone loves you, how much your friends and family love you until you're leaving for space. So there's a pretty profound effect there. And everyone to the T, they just love the planet down. I think it was William Shatner who said that the Earth up against the darkness, up against the blackness, that it just changes people and they want to come home and protect their home planet. And so that's, when they talk about that, it really gets you, and you know that the mission matters.
I know you told me that you don't reveal the amount of money it takes to make it happen. But are there other options, like, say, do you help with the finances, arranging the finances, etc., or you just give the bill for people to?
Yeah, well, so the prices will come down. I'll say that. If you look at any new industry, from automotive to aircraft, the price of an airline ticket, the price of driving cars, so in time it will come down. And we do want this to be accessible to anyone. So we're working very hard. How we're helping is trying to fly more and fly more affordably as we go over time. So the cost will come down. There are other organizations that are working to fly people. Space for Humanity is an example. They worked with us and helped us fly the first Mexican woman, first Egyptian woman, the first Portuguese man. And so working through and there's an organization as well called the Space Exploration and Research Agency. And they're doing a campaign where they're trying to fly people from countries who haven't flown that many or haven't flown any nationals yet. It's called Sarah Space. So there are other partners out there that are working to kind of help us accelerate opening up access to space for everyone.
Gopi, it seems an awful lot of trouble to actually go through for a few minutes of adventure, right? So take me back to that moment when you were there, you were in space. What were some of the things that were going through your mind? I remember your video after you landed. You seemed like a child. So you must have gone through a gamut of emotions. So just take me through that.
Well, first, why would you let anybody else have the trouble? You say it's an awful lot of trouble, but that's the fun. It's to be able to do it yourself and not let somebody else take over. But what I actually felt when I was in space, and I think I told Michael this when I came back, and I met him outside the capsule, was that a lot of prior astronauts who have been not just on Blue Origin but on other organizations to space and the ISS that I've spoken to, they've said it changed my life. It was mind blowing, and I'm a new person today. I don't know if I 100% agree with that statement. I think it's more that when we got out of the seat in 0G and in periphery, I looked at the Earth. It was kind of like a baby reveal, you kind of look at it, but you don't look at it. And then you're like, should I look at it again? So I felt that there was so much going on in such little time. I don't think it changed my life. I don't think that the actual mission and looking at the Earth from out there changed my life. I think it gave it tremendous purpose to why we do what we do day and night on the planet. And the reason I say that is because looking back from there, from the Earth, we are one individual in one room in Delhi, in Seattle, in Atlanta. If we have a disagreement, just an example, you and I have a quarrel, Nirval, then we fight with each other, we argue, blah, blah, blah. When I looked from back at the space, you're only not even that much of that much. For all the tamasha and halla that you can do on the ground, from up there, nobody cares who you are. So if you can put that into perspective and give your life purpose to what you do and why you do every day, then it will really be for the benefit of Earth, is what I think. So
I'm reminded of Carl Sagan's pale blue dot.
I was telling either Michael or my dad when I came back that, the Earth from up there is not like the globe that you have on your desk or not like what you see in the movies. It's very different. It's very, very different. So whoever decided to take the video of the first, a picture of Earth decades ago, they decided to add some color into it and then show you this blue ball that you see. But it is a pale blue dot. And that pale blue dot is so amazing that it's very hard to describe to the naked eye, which is why I think they tried to put the splash of color. And I call it the majestic pale blue dot. So it's pretty fascinating.
Michael, is that what this is all about, essentially? The romanticism of a dream of the child looking up and wondering whether they can go up one day. Is that what this is all about?
Yeah, I mean, it really is about future generations. I talked about our mission and vision at the beginning, but it absolutely is about future generations. If we can tap into the resources of our solar system, we can be better stewards of our planet, and humanity can grow unthrottled and increase the quality of life for everybody on the planet. And that's a big thing. We've got to make sure that the next generation sees that coming. I think that we're lucky enough to live at a time where the generations coming up behind us really do appreciate and understand that the Earth is finite that we haven't been the best stewards of our planet. And I think they want to do something about it. I'm not sure that they get that space is a solution, and that's a message we're trying to carry forward. We actually have a not-for-profit called Club for the Future, clubforfuture.org. And we reach out and do STEAM engagement, create curriculum, have space engineers, space lawyers talk to kids. And actually anyone on the planet can send us a postcard, either digitally or in paper, and we'll fly it to space and send it back to them to try to get kids to understand that space is for everyone and they can access it today.
Gopi, which brings me to the other question that I had for you, which is that you are not the kind of person, you don't come from the kind of background where one might have expected, the first civilian Indian space astronaut to come from. What made you think that this is even possible?
So I guess along our travels, we meet people who are there to, hold your hand and kind of give you the baton, pass the challenge coin, pass the little flag, over. And I had the pleasure of that with a dear friend of mine who's no longer with us, who's Hamish Harding, who Michael knows pretty well, who left us on the Titan submarine when he went to see the Titanic. And he was the one who really knew my passion for flight. And he said that we can make big things happen. The short answer to it, the longer answer, I guess, would be, is we have over 250 startups in space or related to space in India over the last 5 years, which didn't exist before. Now, pushing the boundaries for individuals to put time, effort, and money and get funding for the space industry, which did not exist in the country. And all that has happened not because I went to space. It's because there is such a big, plethora of experiences that are surrounding us as Indians going and putting our, feet in all places, in all countries and lands, that now they think that it is possible. And I think that it's very important for us to pass the message. It's not about being there and have done it, but what can you do once you have done it? And that's kind of what I think is important.
And I would add that, it's not just about the humans. The Indian Space Research Organization is doing some pretty amazing things. There's just a launch a couple days ago with Earth monitoring. There was a satellite tied to Space Kids India, which, just to be clear, I'm not affiliated. I don't even know much about them, but the amount of activity and the growth there is profound. We're watching. We're cheering them on in a big way.
What are the possibilities for increased collaboration, Michael, between both the government space agency over here and the private space startups that are popping up, as Gopi mentioned, in India?
Possibilities for collaboration. So we're all talking, and I think that it definitely is a global industry, and ISRO and I think India in general are big players in it. I think it keeps growing, and we'll keep working together.
Now, I hear you ask that one big question. How much does it all cost? Well, the answer, like many things in life, is that it depends. The first seat on Blue Origin is said to have gone for $28 million at an auction. It is also said to have launched people for $0. Yes, $0. But for that, you will have to be a celebrity who can bring in press coverage in return. The competition to Blue Origin is said to be following a similar pricing strategy. Observer has reported that Virgin Galactic sells a 90-minute ride to suborbital space for $450,000 per seat. Space Perspective, a company which uses balloons and a pressurized capsule, charges $125,000 per person for a 6-hour journey to the stratosphere. According to the Observer, Axiom Space, a Texas startup, is marketing a 10-day trip to the International Space Station for a whopping $55 million. As for Gopi, despite my best efforts to coax it out of him, he just wouldn't reveal what his journey to the edge of space actually cost. There are few things more awesome than the possibility of a trip to space. A few years ago, this wasn't something one could aspire to. That is the big change. Space has become something money can buy. If I ever win the lottery, this is the one thing that I will spend my money on. Thank you for listening. This episode was produced by Vinay Joshi with sound design by Amrit Reji. Executive producers Arijit Burman and Irban Chaudhary. Please like, share and subscribe. The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday on all your favorite platforms for podcasts. This is your host, Nirmal John, signing off. All external clips used in this episode belong to their respective owners. Credits are mentioned in the description.